Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, whenever you happen to be watching this video. My name is Mr. Udell. I'm a teacher of mostly seniors and juniors. I teach government, philosophy, politics, and I'm here representing the social studies department with our guide for writing. And hopefully your teacher, whoever it is, has introduced you to this keyhole model, which is one way to organize an essay. This is not the only way to organize an essay, but when you're a beginning writer or answering certain types of questions, it tends to be very useful. And the keyhole is broadly broken into three parts. The introduction, which is represented by this shape here. So it gets from a general statement down to something very specific. The body, which bulges out because this is all the evidence to defend your thesis that ends your introduction. And then your conclusion, which comes back from the thesis and gives an ending sentence, something students might want to think about or readers might want to think about your topic that broadens it back out. So those are some very general terms, and you might say, well, what exactly do these things mean? So I've used political parties up here for a general statement, but the general statement could be about anything. So if I've been asked to talk about how political parties work in the American political system, a general statement is that political parties have existed since the very beginning of our country. Or a general statement might be, despite George Washington's warning against having political parties, two of his top advisors, Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton, created parties almost as soon as he was done being president. But if your essay is about something else, your essay is about, in psychology, things that might impact the way a person perceives himself, the general statement might be that almost all people have an idea of what their self is like. But how did that self become this way? There's a general statement. Maybe you're in a European history class, and the question is, what were the causes of World War I? Or a U.S. history class, for that matter. The general statement might be, wars in Europe have been occurring for hundreds of years. Just a very general statement. The early 20th century saw two major wars, the first of which was World War I. And then you would get to your thesis. The most important causes of World War I were, and then you would go ahead and list what those most important causes were as you saw them. And frequently we talk about a 5-paragraph essay, which could be the most important causes of World War I were A, B, and C. Maybe you just have 2 points. There's no reason this has to be a 5-paragraph essay. The length of the essay is based on the number of points that you want to make. So almost always in these school essays you want to make 2, 3, or 4 points. If you have fewer than 2, you probably want to think a little more and make more evidence. If you have more than 4, you might want to try and combine them and try and get them, just for the type of essay we're talking about. So if I say the causes of World War I were A, B, and C, then what I want to remember is that in my essay, now I'm going to give evidence to back up this claim that these are the causes of World War I, or to back up this claim, this is why political parties are important, or to back up this claim, this is why a person thinks of him or herself this way. I need to give evidence for A, for B, for C, or D, and in that order, because I told you I was going to talk about A and I'm going to talk about B. And if you want to get a little more sophisticated, the reason that you might organize them as A and B, you probably want to go from your weakest argument to your strongest argument. However, so the first topic sentence should go directly back to supporting the thesis. So if the thesis is these are the causes of World War I, then you might start out with, your first point might be the alliance system. One of the major causes of World War I was the alliance system. Okay, we're talking about what that is. Now you need some evidence or points for those ideas. Talk about some of the alliances that existed. Give specific examples. For example, when Germany aligned itself with. For example, when France aligned itself with. And then towards the end of that, so you have the topic sentence, the point, and at the end of that, you might just summarize that. These alliances are widely recognized as contributing to the war. Then you're going to get to your second point, right? So your second point might be the great power rivalries, that they were rivaling to become something. And again, if you want to be more sophisticated and just instead of just saying, which would be fine, the second cause of World War I were the great power rivalries. You might include something like a transition by saying, not only did the alliance system contribute to World War I, but so did what's known as the great power rivalries. And then you would give evidence for those points. And then you would summarize by saying great power rivalries. You would go on to ideas 3 and 4 if you had points B and C. If you didn't, you'd be ready for your conclusion. So in your conclusion, generally we ask you to start very specifically by restating your thesis in a slightly different format. As the reader can see, both the alliance system and the great power rivalries have added or contributed to World War I. Then the war took the lives of over 14 million people. One would hope that in our modern age we would learn from these mistakes and avoid similar senseless wars again. Right? So it's a more general statement and also gives somebody something to think about. So this obviously comes a little bit easier to me because I've been doing it for a long time. You can always sit with your teacher and brainstorm some ideas. I guarantee he or she will be able to work through this, and it's just a very effective way to